Today is Sunday the 3rd of November 2013, and today we're having a look at claims that Comet ISON is now 3 days ahead of the NASA JPL charts. This is one such video by Dabu7 or Dabu77. In his video here, observers perplexed over Comet ISON, and it's now 3 days ahead of JPL chart. So we're going to have a look at some of the claims in this video, and these claims have been repeated elsewhere as well. Let's have a look at a clip from Dabu7's video and hear what he has to say.
And one last major detail I want to share with you here is that they stated that this thing has already crossed the Earth's orbit on Wednesday at 6 p.m. That's October 30th at 6 p.m. As you can see by the NASA JPL charts, it does not cross Earth's orbit till right now, today as I'm speaking. If you go back to the 30th, that means that this comet is 3 days ahead of schedule, and NASA is refusing to update their charts.
Okay, so the question here is, who was right and who was wrong? Now, he's got this information from this NBC article, and he's put a link in his video so we can go and check it out. Here it is, NBC News. Observers perplexed by Comet ISON's erratic performance. Now, when they're talking about its erratic performance, they're actually talking about the dust production and the tail and so on. You can read all about it there. It's got nothing to do with it changing direction or being 3 days ahead of time or anything like that. It's purely about its dust production and what's going on with the tail and so on. So there are no concerns about it changing direction or hitting the Earth or anything like that. It's a completely different subject that they're talking about. But anyway, here's the point that he raises in his video. It says here, whatever is happening, Comet ISON continues on its way in towards the Sun and crossed the Earth's orbit on Wednesday at 6 p.m. EDT. Now, we seem to have a problem here because it doesn't seem to match what we've seen in Dabu7's video, as he showed with the NASA JPL applet. As we can see it here, November 2, we can see Comet ISON's position here. And also, if we have a look from a top-down view, we can see November 2 position. Now, according to the NBC article, Comet ISON was supposed to have crossed the Earth orbit on the 30th of October. So we do have a problem. Now, is the problem with NASA JPL or is the problem with NBC's reporting? Let's compare this chart from NASA JPL with what I'm using in Starry Night, and let's have a look, see what we find. This is 2nd of November. I've got this set to 6 o'clock UTC, 0600 hours UTC, and we can see that Comet ISON is right above the orbit of the Earth. That's this green line here. And we can see that this totally agrees with this top-down view from NASA JPL. So we have a problem with the NBC reporting. Somebody has got their facts wrong. In this case, it's not NASA JPL who haven't updated their data. This chart is actually correct. Now, how do I know that this chart is actually correct? Well, I've been imaging Comet ISON on an almost daily basis through the SLU remote telescope, and here are a couple of images that were taken yesterday through the T2 high mag and the T2 wide field telescopes with SLU. This is in the Canary Islands. Okay, now to book a mission with the SLU telescopes, you have to provide the ray deck, that's right ascension and declination data, to have the telescopes point at the object that you want to look at. So we can see with these missions, we've got the time here, 2nd of November 2013 at 0600 hours and 10 minutes, 0610. Okay, and we've got the right ascension and declination data here. Now, when I set up a mission using the SLU telescopes, I go into Starry Night, I select Comet ISON, and I show the info. Okay. Now on the side here, you'll see the position of the object, and you can see that you've got the right ascension and declination data here. Okay. So this was at 6:07 on November 2, 2013, and that was the start time of the SLU mission. You'll notice that with the images from SLU, they're a few minutes later. Okay, now this is because of the imaging time, but the actual mission would have started at 6:07. So the coordinates here, as we can see, 11, 18, 54 and plus 5, 30, 52. If I go back into Starry Night, we find that the coordinates here are 11, 18, 54, 5, 30, 52. What do we have? Let's flip backwards and forwards. So looking at this line here, this is a right ascension with the J2000 data, 11, 18, 54, and 11, 18, 54. Let's go back. Next line, declination J2000, 5, 30, 52, 5, 30, 52. Okay, so it's in total agreement with the data that's in Starry Night. The point being is that if I'm booking a mission with the SLU telescope and I'm entering the data that I've taken from Starry Night Pro, this has to be accurate, otherwise the telescope is not going to be pointing in the right direction, is it? And we can see from this image from the wide field telescope and this image here from the high mag telescope that indeed the telescope was pointing at exactly the right coordinates to photograph Comet ISON. So if this data was wrong in Starry Night, then the telescope would be pointing off into space and seeing nothing. Now this is the second window in Starry Night, as we can see that the data for Comet ISON agrees with what we're seeing in the NASA JPL applet. Okay, so this points to the fact that the news agency NBC have actually got some facts wrong. I don't know why, but obviously they've misreported it. Maybe it's a typo or something like that, but clearly it doesn't agree with the NASA JPL data, and it doesn't agree with the Starry Night data that we're using to accurately photograph Comet ISON. Now let's take a closer look at these images that I took through these SLU telescopes yesterday. This is the image of Comet ISON through the T2 high mag telescope, and this is a closer look at that same image. Now if I go back to Starry Night and we do a comparison, and this red box is the approximate field of view of the camera, so we can see some stars around Comet ISON. These are the brightest stars that are around Comet ISON, and if I flick backwards and forwards between this photo and Starry Night, we can see those brighter stars. There's a little bit of movement in the telescope there, so we can see these stars appear to be elongated. That's just because of movement in the camera. But if we compare them to Starry Night, we can see that there's a match. Okay, we've got these two bright stars here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We go back to Starry Night. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up there, and we can see that it's a match. Now if I select this target field of view marker, we see that the telescope is pointing exactly at Comet ISON. Now earlier this month, back on the 8th of October, when I started hearing these claims that Comet ISON was going off course and it was ahead of time, and you know, all these changes that were being reported, I thought, I can see where this is going. So I actually downloaded 60 days worth of radec data from NASA JPL, and I saved it onto my computer so that I had a hard copy of it that couldn't be changed later on. And we're going to have a look at that and just see what sort of change there has been, if any, since nearly 4 weeks ago. Remember, this is on the 2nd of November at 0600 hours and 7 minutes UTC, and we're looking straight at Comet ISON. We've done a comparison of the images, and we can see that the telescope is pointing exactly in the same place as what we're seeing in Starry Night. Now these are some of the data files that I've saved, and as you can see here, we've got Comet ISON data, NASA JPL 9th of October 2013. This is an HTML document, so it will open in my browser when I hit this link. As you can see, this is opened in my browser. It's not online, it's not live online. It is file C drive, documents and settings, David, desktop, Comet ISON. Okay, so this is saved data, it is not online. Must stress that. We can see here that I've set the start time at 9th of October 2013, and the stop time is on the 8th of December 2013. So we've got 60 days worth of data, and I've requested the time steps at 5 minutes to suit the SLU mission times. So if I scroll down to the 2nd of November, and you can see all of this data, there's screeds and screeds of it, all the radec information. We go down to the 2nd of November and find 0605, where are we? 0605 on the 2nd of November 2013. That's the closest I can get to our mission time, because the slew mission time was actually at 6:07. So I could go for either one of these, 6:05 or 6:10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare this data that I downloaded back on the 9th of October with the slew mission that was on the 2nd of November and see just how much it's changed. So once again we go back to Starry Night, and let me bring up the info on Comet ISON. There it is, C/2012 S1, and here is the right ascension and declination data. We're using the J2000 data, 11/18/54, 5/30/52. We checked that all before. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is compare that to what we had on the 9th of October. Here we go, 11/18/53.8 and 5/30/54.7. So we can see that there's a very, very tiny change. But just how much change does that represent? Well, let's go in and change the data. So if I select center other coordinates, we've got the existing coordinates have opened in this box now, and what I'm going to do is change this to what we see here. So we're going to change that to 11/18/53.8. So we only have to change this last bit, 53.8, on the right ascension data. So I've got to change that to 53.8. Okay, and then I'm going down to this field here, and I'm going to change it from 530, or change it to 5/30/54.7. So we can see it was on 52, and I'm going to change it to 54.7. Okay, and then we're going to center that and see just what a difference it makes, if any. Okay, I'm just going to zoom that back in. Now remember that that yellow plus sign is our target. It's pointing, that's telling us where the telescope is actually pointing to based on the coordinates that we've actually set. And what do we find? We find it's looking pretty much in the same place. Now this is after how many days? We've gone from the 9th of October to the 2nd of November. And we're being told in videos by Dabu7 and others that Comet ISON is 3 days ahead of itself. Well, let's zoom right in and see, this is the field of view of the T2 High Mag telescope. That was the photograph that we saw, this one here. That's the field of view that we're looking at. So if I zoom right in, you can see that there is a slight difference. So the target has shifted. Previously it was right on Comet ISON because those were the coordinates that we set, but now we can see that it has shifted slightly, but not so much that we see any great difference in its trajectory, and such differences are to be expected. So just how much difference would 3 days worth of change of trajectory actually be? Well, each slew mission on the T2 telescope is 5 minutes long. So I've set this up for 5-minute steps. Okay, so again this is at 6:07 UTC, 2nd of November. So if I step this forward in 5-minute steps, we're going to see just how much movement there is in 5 minutes worth of time. Okay, so as you can see from this, the amount of difference that we see back at 6:07 is negligible. It's nothing. So if that's 5 minutes worth of movement there, how much movement would you expect to see in 3 days? It would be considerable. So this proves the fact that I can take an image through the slew telescope, enter the coordinates that we took from the Horizons JPL, NASA JPL website back on the 9th of October, and we see that it's almost identical to what we're seeing today with the latest data in Starry Night. It proves that Comet ISON has not got ahead of itself, or it's not behind. It's exactly where it should be. And I'm going to, this has been a longer video, but I'm planning to make some shorter videos where we can keep track of this data. I'm saving it every few weeks as I can. I saved that on the 9th of October. I also saved it on the 25th of October, and I can save 60 days worth of data at a time. So I'm going to keep saving this so that nobody can say, oh well, NASA have changed their data, they've edited it to cover up any changes in the trajectory. That's nonsense. In fact, let's do a check right now. Let's go to the NASA JPL website and do an up-to-date check on the latest data for Comet ISON. here we can see all of the data that I've got set. You can check this for yourself, and you can see that the start date that I've got set here is the 25th of October 2013 through to the 24th of December 2013. So again, that's the full 60 days worth of data. So I'm going to generate the ephemeris, and we'll have a look at the data and see what sort of change there is, if any. So here's the data, and I've got to go down to the 2nd of November, and we were on 6:05 UTC. So here we go. There's our data, and if we compare it to what we had back on the 9th of October, which is this one, remember this is on my C drive, this is not live. So we've got 6:05 UTC, we've got 11:18:53 and 11:18:53.58. We've got 5:30:54.7 on the saved data back on the 9th of October. 5:30:54.7. We've got 5:30:55.9. So the actual change is negligible. You wouldn't even see any difference in that field of view as we see it there. It's certainly not 3 days ahead of itself. As I said, these claims are nonsense. And I think that anybody who is looking to people like Dabu7 or BP Earthwatch, who has previously identified a galaxy as being the latest image of Comet ISON, I think you really need to be thinking about where you're getting your information from, especially from people who are making all sorts of doomsday claims about Comet ISON going off course and causing all sorts of problems and all of this sort of nonsense. You know, you really need to question where you're getting your reliable information from. Just remember that the data that I'm using from Starry Night Pro, though it's not a live telescope, the data is accurate, and if it was not accurate I would not be able to enter the coordinates into the slew telescopes to take pictures like these. Obviously if the coordinates were wrong, or if Comet ISON was in the wrong place, then the camera and the telescope on the slew telescopes would be pointing out into space and seeing nothing. The fact that we can take images of Comet ISON, and fairly well centered in the photographs, proves that the coordinates are accurate. This has been a longer video, and I thank you for watching through to the end. As always, do check out my Facebook discussion page, Voices of Reason to Explain X. There's a link in the description area for you. Thank you for watching. Hello YouTube, this is Dazza the Cameraman. Today is Sunday the 3rd of November 2013, and today we're having a look at claims that Comet ISON is now 3 days ahead of the NASA JPL charts. This is one such video by Dabu7 or Dabu77. In his video here, observers perplexed over Comet ISON, and it's now 3 days ahead of JPL chart. So we're going to have a look at some of the claims in this video, and these claims have been repeated elsewhere as well. Let's have a look at a clip from Dabu7's video and hear what he has to say.
And one last major detail I want to share with you here is that they stated that this thing has already crossed the Earth's orbit on Wednesday at 6 p.m. That's October 30th at 6 p.m. As you can see by the NASA JPL charts, it does not cross Earth's orbit till right now, today as I'm speaking. If you go back to the 30th, that means that this comet is 3 days ahead of schedule, and NASA is refusing to update their charts.
Okay, so the question here is who was right and who was wrong. Now he's got this information from this NBC article, and he's put a link in his video so we can go and check it out. Here it is, NBC News. Observers perplexed by Comet ISON's erratic performance. Now when they're talking about its erratic performance, they're actually talking about the dust production and the tail and so on. You can read all about it there. It's got nothing to do with it changing direction or being 3 days ahead of time or anything like that. It's purely about its dust production and what's going on with the tail and so on. So there are no concerns about it changing direction or hitting the Earth or anything like that. It's a completely different subject that they're talking about. But anyway, here's the point that he raises in his video. It says here, whatever is happening, Comet ISON continues on its way in towards the Sun and crossed the Earth's orbit on Wednesday at 6 p.m. EDT. Now, we seem to have a problem here because it doesn't seem to match what we've seen in Dabu7's video, as he showed with the NASA JPL applet. As we can see it here, November 2, we can see Comet ISON's position here. And also, if we have a look from a top-down view, we can see November 2 position. Now, according to the NBC article, Comet ISON was supposed to have crossed the Earth orbit on the 30th of October. So we do